People who work at 5-star hotels, what type of shit goes on that management doesn't want people to know? I worked at a Ritz-Carlton a few years back. It's literally the same as anywhere else. The hotel staff is amazing at their job. But on their personal time they're just as ducked as everyone else. The kitchen staff had a few folks with drug issues and had to be sent home a couple times because of it. In my time there I saw 2 waiters get fired due to embezzlement. The turnover rate for management was very high because they didn't pay enough for the area. The staff parties were wild to say the least. We weren't allowed to greet celebrities by name since they wanted to be anonymous. So we would use their alias that day. Some were greeted by prostitutes or escorts who were always super nice to everyone. A regular would rent out a room for a day. Once a month. And make 30-40k that day from clients. Celebrities. Business guys. You name it. Crazy. Bedbugs. Every single hotel from rundown motels to 5-star resorts has dealt with bedbugs. Never trust glass in rooms. Glass are so stretched thin on time that they will clean the glasses with the same rags they clean the bathroom. After all, their goal is to make the room look clean. I worked as a gra in a 5-diamond for years and there was over a year period that went by where we didn't get a clean glass delivery. We didn't have dishwashers in the room. So management was complicit. This was in a 5-diamond. One of the top resorts in the world. Never trust glass in hotel rooms. Suddenly the sealed plastic cups at Holiday Inn seem 5-star to me. My so worked for a fancy hotel. The building owners, not the chain. The actual building itself, came to visit. He was on the Forbes Billionaire list. He was a nice man who had buffet lunches every day and tipped every staff members he saw a crisp $100. Every time he saw them. Housekeeper walking past? $100. Bartender setting up? $100. Shift swap? $100 on the way in and out. This is how you billionaire. I'm reading these while laying in a hotel bed and I don't like this. Watching for signs of sex trafficking. Lots of cheating spouses there under fake names. And you can't confirm if they're there when the spouse calls said. Jacuzzi and swimming pool deaths, usually from alcohol. Guests expose themselves to female staff frequently, especially housekeepers and room service. People will legit give you keys to their rooms. Sometimes dealing with really shitty organizations for their banquets income. Etc. One cool thing is that you can buy pillows, mattresses, etc. from many hotel brands if you really enjoyed your sleep at a hotel. Here's one taken from the opposite end. I'm really bad at rolling joints. I left the shitty joint with my stash and papers on the dresser. I come back to a nicely rolled joint. I don't know if any was missing. But thank you Hard Rock LV staff. Worked in 5-star hotels in Beverly Hills. Boy do I have stories. Shake picks up a hooker in the bar. Takes her to his room. She roofies him and steals tens of thousands of dollars of cash. Watches and valuables. Husbands who will say hello to staff with their mistress on their arm on Thursday night and their wife on Friday night. Famous teen celebrity left a room full of needles and various drug paraphernalia behind for housekeeping to clean up. Middle Eastern royalty ships in multiple Ferraris and Lamborghinis to the hotel from their home country to drive for the week. Caught drag racing later that night by the cops in the neighborhoods of Beverly Hills. Largest checkout bill I've ever seen was roughly $2 million for guests who rented out an entire floor of suites for 3 weeks. Promptly paid via wire transfer. Had to procure $100k cash for a guest whose wife wanted to shop on Rodeo Drive the next morning. The local bank doesn't even have that much. Had to get an armored car from the Central LA Bank branch to deliver. The list goes on. Worked at a high-end restaurant at a ski resort that hosts a famous film festival. Lots of SX in the walk-in coolers. Didn't work at one. But deliver newspapers to one. The prostitution thing was something the desk saw a lot. The best one was when the gentleman got robbed by 2 young ladies and immediately demanded the front desk call the cops. When the desk asked if he wanted to call the cops and tell them he hired 2 hookers, illegal, he suddenly just grunted and marched up to his room. A lot of lonely people going on vacation to end their life. Happens a lot but is never mentioned on the news. When we see Instagram influencer on your booking, we roll our eyes. Dead people. In some places there's a reasonable chance somebody has died in your bed. Obviously it varies with the type of hotel and its clientele. But some places you get deaths weekly. Not that the hotel isn't safe but unfit old people overexerting themselves. One place I worked maybe 40% of the beds had been died in. Bedbugs. They happen in every hotel. You might be paying $5 a night but your luggage was in the hold with everyone else's. If there's only 1 or 2 bugs and none in the adjacent rooms, diamond style. So above, below, and both sides, then you brought them in. You know what I never saw happen? Maid stealing. Everyone always points at the maids when they lose stuff but we always found it. No way the maids are risking their jobs over your used iPad or mall jewelry. With tips they make pretty decent money. Coke. Lots of Coke. If it wasn't so bad for me, I'd drink it every day. What goes on the room next to you? This week we to evict and have arrested a couple for causing over $15,000 in damages to a room. This was done quietly late at night and the nearby rooms never found out. I spent 10 years in the boutique and 5-star hotel world. Got stories for days. But here is my favorite that sums up hospitality. Former anyways. Our concierge was Left's door. Had all the connections. This dude could get you into the French Laundry same day. He would often greet guests with sangria and sprigs of mint from his garden. Sometimes he had lemon slices from his tree too. He loved to tell guests all about his garden and they ate it up. Yeah, that's all bullshit. Mint, lemon, and any other garnish we got from the local grocery store. The sangria? Cheapest boxed stuff we could find. But he sold the story like no other. At the end of the day, it worked. That those balls of butter made. Dude. I was at a Hawaiian hotel luau where they served rolls with those butter balls. I'm first in line looking at the food labels first. Then the food. Then I see some puffed up name for rolls like Hawaiian super rolls or something. Next to the label were the little butter balls. I'm thinking, oh sweet. Some sorta tiny, fancy, shiny rolls. All about it. And I grab like 10. Then one of the hosts sees and exclaims, "Oh, Butterman." And then I look up and see some basic rolls in a basket just next to me. Duck. I'm already 10 butters in and only want one real roll. I can't put them back. I can't let him know I'm an idiot. Gotta let him believe I'm eating just as much butter as bread my whole life. Never ever ever, I repeat, use a chocolate fountain from a hotel or banquet hall. Picture this. It's an expensive ass Sunday brunch. Well, little Timmy just double-fisted strawberries directly into that chocolate. Bit into both strawberries then triple dipped into the chocolate again. And some old rich lady just sneezed on it. And somebody else just dropped their snack into it. The best part. That chocolate gets strained and saved for the next week's brunch. Chocolate is way too expensive to throw away. Chocolate also does this thing where it'll seize if it has the wrong moisture content from people dipping fruit. And the juice is going into the chocolate. So it'll get so thick it won't run through the machine. Wanna know how they fix that? They add canola oil until it's smooth again. So, yeah. Next time you're at a wedding and they have a chocolate fountain, think of this post. Think of this post when you dip into that dirty ass watered down with oil chocolate. Edit. We don't bat an eye at prostitution or whatever goes on in the rooms as long as it doesn't affect other guests. Half the women that come to the bar are working girls looking for a sale. The only thing that the hotel industry ever really reports is human trafficking. There are telltale signs and if something doesn't add up we do report it to local authorities. I don't know about all 5 hotels but I'm sure this happens at most of them. Front desk reservation staff will basically stalk you online if you're a notable VIP, and your picture will be shared internally to ensure everyone recognizes you, so you feel special when you arrive and everyone already knows who you are. I worked in security for one, and housekeeping called us all the time for drugs they'd find in a room. The first thing we'd ask for is the room number, and we'd look up the name of the guest. If it was a VIP or someone important to us, we'd tell them to leave it there and we'd take care of it. If the guest was someone we didn't know and not important to us, we'd go up there and take it out of the room. Then threaten to evict them from their stay if they did it again. The clues hints we would use. What's their status tier? Diamond members almost always got a pass. How did they book the room? If it was a third party like Exploitation, no pass. How many times had they stayed at our specific property? 5 or more years pass. How much had they charged up? If they were spending money on property outside of the room, radius pass. Basically, you could have cocaine in your room if you spent enough money. We don't want you to know that the people who stayed in the room before you were ducking nasty. Housekeeping gets the brunt of it. I've seen them carry out bags of used sex toys. Peel used condoms off of every surface. And scrub shti, actual human, presumably, shti, off places there's no reason for human shti to be. The worst, though, was the couple that wanted a home birth but not, you know, at home, because gross. We had to deal with that hazmat situation. Duck them as hard as we could with penalties and fees. Though. I used to work events at hotels, and one time we had a guest break their wine glass inside a water refill barrel. I left work for 2 weeks to go on vacation, and when I came back, all the glass was still piled inside the water refill barrel. I was a valet in college at a very swanky resort. The members had a certain sticker on their car and the owner's partners have a black sticker, which I had no clue, but knew they belonged. When a guy pulled up in a very nice Benz, I said, "Welcome back," not knowing his name. He was so pissed that I didn't know who he was. He was an ass to me, but I couldn't care less. Moments later, another younger guy pulled up to valet and asked me what the guy said to me. I hesitantly said he was mad I had no idea who he was. The young guy looked disappointed and said, "That's my father and here's an $sign hole. Don't worry about him at all." Then he gave me $20 to park his car and was extremely nice to every employee who ever interacted with him. Lots of prostitution and all the drama, legal trouble that goes along with it. Corporate functions like conventions, parties, etc., where there's an open bar almost always leads to something ducked up happening. One hotel I worked at hosted a Christmas party for an investment firm, and 2 guys started jockeying for the affections of a female coworker. They all wound up on an elevator together and the guys started fighting. The elevator went into safety lockdown. We had to call the PD and the FD. One guy went in a squad car. One guy went in an ambulance. We had to give the woman some clothes from Lost and Found because her dress was covered in blood and the elevator was out of service for 6 hours to clean it up. There's always a ton of back of house drama. 2. Especially among the execs and the junior managers. Affairs. Backstabbing. A little light fraud. You know. The usual. Mayo, I have so many stories and honestly I want to write a memoir about it. We legit had someone once break into the archive room and steal everyone's credit card details. Nobody noticed until like a month later. Was a shitty show. I've had to deal with people throwing the furniture off balconies and throw onto other guests' cars. Sadly, a lot of DV incidents. Hospitalizations. People killing themselves. Undercover cops looking at CCTV for high-end criminals. And don't even get me started on how clean those rooms are. Your $1,000 night does not reflect those standards. They still wash them teacups in the bathroom sink or the bathtub. Lastly, I'm an Australian and was working in the US for a while in this fancy 5-star resort, frontline position working holiday, and what management really didn't want you to know is how little they paid us. I don't work in one anymore, but used to. This isn't really shenanigans, but The staff is not nearly so impressed by famous or rich people as some of them seem to think we should be. It was a fancy hotel. We had rich and famous guests all the time. And it was usually the ones nowhere near the top of the ladder who tried to be the most imperious and expected the most deference. If you have to try to convince us you're high status, you aren't. We'd provide polite, professional service for all our guests and try to be helpful and accommodating. But being a C-list actor or whatever isn't going to get you a table in a full restaurant or an upgrade to the already occupied fancier suites. And if there's a severe blizzard and the airport is closed, we can't open it for you because you're too special to have to wait to fly out. Even if you're a very important businessman. As part of our training as bellmen, we are to ask open-ended questions to the children to make sure they aren't being used for sex trafficking when bringing in luggage to dad and daughter types. My dad works in security in the same hotel, so he often gives me a heads up if the guest with the child is already under suspicion regarding their behavior at the front desk for check-in. It rarely happens, but hotels are the breeding grounds for sex traffickers. I am a subcontractor that works in the IT business, and the W Hotel in Miami Beach has seen some shitty. One day I come into work and there is a big scramble at the upper floors. That is where the penthouse are. Seems this kinda known millionaire had a little too much coke and God knows what else and was destroying the room. He was actually throwing furniture out the balcony. Ripped everything out of the fridge. Might have even thrown a mattress out the balcony. It was a big deal at the time, but they keep it hush with no police involved. A guy that's paying $9k 13k a night is not going to be arrested. When the team finally got into the room, there was cocaine all over the tables, bottles everywhere, and a couple of high-class call girls that were in true fear. Next day they booked the same room to Jennifer Lopez at a certain Beverly Hills hotel, where I valeted for a short amount of time. Many stars' cars are just left there. They come and get them whenever. There was also a code name for Justin Bieber who visited often. I can't remember it. He picked it himself. His G-Wagon and a Bentley were just kept down there free of charge. Usher also left his bike there a few years back and has just never collected it. This thread makes me want to invest in an RV. The prostitute tips me more often than the guest does. I had a pretty good experience at one. I worked at a 5-star hotel for 3 years. Actually had a great time there and the employees genuinely cared about the service they gave. Management was great. And it really felt like a massive family. I still keep in contact with some of the employees years later. They hire illegal immigrants so they can exploit them for cheaper than his legal labor wages. As a business traveler who has spent the majority of the last 20 years living out of a suitcase, I don't regret the time I've spent away from family half as much as browsing this Reddit thread. Actually have a question for 5-star workers. Once I visited a family member who was staying at a fancy pants place. A guy came over with 2 towels to lay out. I'm so uncomfortable being waited on, I picked one up to do it myself. Think he tried to say no. I may have myself said something like it's fine. And I laid it out. Anyways. Would he have been reprimanded or scolded for letting me do it myself or saying no? Let me do it? Only realized later it might look bad to management. Felt terribly about having possibly gotten him in trouble since. Think about it a lot. Don't worry about it. The main goal is that the customer is happy, even if that means you did something for yourself. Good service means you get what you want. I worked at a large 5-star Holiday Inn and was surprised to discover that the bellboys took home more money than the grams. One day the company founder paid us a visit. At first, I could not understand why so many people had turned up even though they were not scheduled to be on shift. Then I found out that it was well known that Kemmons Wilson gave a $100 tip to every member of staff that greeted him. We went on lockdown once because a man walked into the lobby with a shotgun. There were also 2 loud bangs in the motorcade around the same time. We were sealed up tight for about 45 minutes. We had people escape into our area in hysterics before the doors to the lobby were locked. But I never saw the person with the gun. One woman in particular was hyperventilating because he pointed the gun straight at her before walking away. Anyhow, we were told that we'd be fired if we talked to the media. By the time I finished counting my draw, the news was saying that an attempted bank robbery had spilled over into our motorcade before they drove away. By the time I got home, that story was gone from everywhere but a single news outlet who issued a correction stating that a car had backfired in the motorcade. We weren't allowed to discuss it. It was kept as quiet as in-house celebrity gossip. They usually let you off on smoking fines if you complain enough. This is all hotels. Yeah. This is definitely not universally true. You don't want to pay for the PRNO you ordered. We'll take it off. No questions asked. You didn't like the room service meal? Guess what? It's calmed. You smoked in the room? Duck you. You're paying the ducking maximum. Most of the time smoking in the room takes it out of commission for a day or two. And guess where we're gonna make that money up? That's right. Duck you. Pay me. Not an ours. You smoke, you pay the basic fine. You smoke and complain, whine, argue, fine goes to the maximum amount. Wait, so people smoke in the room and then complain to get out of it? Not a 5-star hotel. My experience, the rock stars, and I mean rock, not pop or country etc., were they guys that didn't want anything. They were really chill and would interact with the staff like they're regular people. It's the higher ups in the hospitality industry that are the kiss ass. The front desk girls will make room calls after their shift. We had that happen with a group of college student interns at the hotel I was working at. They were from another country close to Russia and decided to run a brothel out of one of the rooms. This was a US hotel attached to a casino, and they all got deported because of the incident where a staff member was caught going to the hotel room. Used to work in one 2 summers ago in a remote-ish place where we lived in accommodations across the street from the hotel. A lot of us have slept with each other. And the busiest days are weekends. So we usually have Mondays off. Sundays were called Sunday Fun Day, where we would go to town or other people's dorms and do way too much coke. As soon as you walk in, ask tons of questions about every aspect of the hotel. Always order a specialty cocktail with dinner or lunch. And use every outlet of the hotel. They will immediately flag you as a Forbes shopper. Everyone in the hotel will know your name. And a picture we stole from your Facebook will be all over the hotel behind the scenes. You'll get the best service you've ever had. Seriously love this thread. I've had family work in 4-5-star hotels. And dated someone who worked in MGR position as well. Few things. 1. There's a percentage of guests who try to lure hotel employees for hanky-panky, doorman, valet etc. 2. Surprising amount of suspected drug TRFFKN. 3. If your SO is a MGR or similar position that close to room blocking process, you can have midday delights BC. They offer empty rooms for employees earnestly looking to catch some sleep.